Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hot Soup, the show of various formats where myself, Graham, aka HamHocks42 on the internet, chats with BrujajaGaming. Hello, hello.
What's up?
About Commander and
Hi.
whatever comes to mind. So yeah, hey, how's it going? This is an unhinged ramble like we do, and we're gonna have some fun today. So let's just jump right on into it. There was some discussion on the Twitterverse, which is a platform that you and I are both on often, despite our best interest, if I'm honest.
Mental health.
And exactly, for our own well-being, it would probably be better if we weren't on there so frequently, but here we are. And there was a lot of discourse yesterday around Commander power level. Is that still the phrase to use these days?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but the idea of
started referring it to speed.
Yeah. So the general consensus being, if you're building a deck now to play Commander, and we're not talking CEDH, we're talking casual Commander, how fast does it have to be? How strong do the cards have to be? Do you have to include staples? You know, what does a casual Commander deck need to be able to do these days? And there's been this general consensus that there should be a range of power levels. Like, you should be able to play low power and you should be able to play high power, but not necessarily CEDH or anything in between. And the problem with that kind of a spectrum is, how do you calibrate where your deck is along it, and how do you articulate that to the people in your play group to the point where you can all actually have a fun time? Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but I know for me, and I think part of the issue where this discussion comes from, is my low power is going to be different from your low power, and it's going to be different from your low power, dear viewer or listener. And so it's really just pretty much impossible to really gauge that effectively.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. And people were proposing things like maybe we should have power caps. Maybe we should have a point system to weight cards, and we can talk about how like our point system is for the decks. I've been relying on speed and talking about speed because to me that makes the difference between everything. Because when you're playing low power, the idea is typically there's not as much removal in those power decks and doesn't take as fast to build your board. However, the early turns still go quick because it's like land mana dork. Land and pass. So it can still take the same amount of time, but the deck is moving at a different pace. So, you know, a deck that starts moving at turn 8 and a deck that wins by turn 8 are two different power levels. Specifically what? I don't even feel like it matters. We just need to know how quick it moves. At least that's what I've been using. I've had a lot more luck with that in Rule Zero conversations.
Cool.
A lot more luck.
No, and I like that because I think that's key, because if your deck is capable of generating like 8 or 9 mana by turn 3, which is not even that crazy anymore, then that's the issue where you run into the scenarios where the other players they truly cannot keep up. Whatever kind of threats you're enabling, there is no way that they're spending enough mana to stop all of it in order to prevent you from going off and doing your thing. You know, because I think that's the bottom line, is we want to be able to interact. You know, turn 1 combos suck for everybody. That's why we don't do those, you know, generally speaking.
I recently, and I feel discouraged in advance building some decks. Joining the discussion yesterday, I pretty much said that I want to build for me, not build to find a table. I don't want to feel obligated to build particular higher power or more efficient staples in every single deck just so I could keep up with the other decks. Or I want to be able to sacrifice power for jank just to stay on theme. Right. I have a food deck that I built before food support came out in Eldraine, Lord of the Rings, and now Bloomburrow. And it wasn't that powerful, but it had janky weirdness so that when it popped, and it was capable of winning, and everybody thought it was hilarious when it did. But now there's so much powerful food stuff that I actually have to cap it for myself to keep it in the spirit of jank.
Okay.
You know?
There's an interesting question, and I know I have some answers. What are some cards that you find yourself intentionally excluding from decks because they create a scenario that's not fun? Do you have any in mind? Because I know I can start. For me, the one that does it for me, let me grab the original printing for the video here. Grinding Station. Grinding Station is a card. Grinding Station or Blasting Station, both. I've used both to produce infinite win scenarios, because in the one, you either sacrifice a creature or sacrifice an artifact and you get to do something, and then they'll untap when another scenario is met. So in the case of Blasting Station, you can tap it, sacrifice a creature, deal 1 damage to a creature or planeswalker, and then whenever a creature comes into play, you may untap it. And so you can do so many infinite loops with this thing, where if you sacrifice a creature, a token is generated, then you sacrifice the token to generate more things. Like that situation is not hard. One of the infinite loops that I did with this that I was kind of proud of, and it felt janky at the time, but looking back on it, I realized it's still a BS infinite loop, is it was Animate Dead on Sun Titan with a Blasting Station. And so was it Animate Dead or Kaya's Ghost Form? I think it was Kaya's Ghost Form. So you have Kaya's Ghost Form on a Sun Titan. And so when you play a Sun Titan or reanimate the Sun Titan, you put a Kaya's Ghost Form on it. You then tap the Blasting Station to sacrifice the Sun Titan. Kaya's Ghost Form triggers, brings it back. You could bring the Kaya's Ghost Form back using the Sun Titan's trigger and just loop it infinitely. So infinite Sun Titans becomes infinite damage. You win the game with that. Well, so what do I need to do to pull that off? I need to play a 3-mana artifact in Blasting Station and reanimate a Sun Titan.
Yeah.
Like with a Kaya's Ghost Form in the graveyard, or some other variant of, Minions Return or whatever. There's a bunch of spells that do that. So it's one of those where it's like, is that really that hard to pull off if I'm milling aggressively? No, it's really not. And and I find myself not doing that, because while it does require a little bit of setup, and in like a CEDH environment, it's probably not good enough. But in a casual commander pod, if the stars align, if the right mills hit, or if I get the right entomb or whatever, this can pop off by turn 4.
Yeah.
Or turn 4 or turn 5 relatively consistently. And it's like, and it just ends the game on the spot.
Yeah. And I do want to clarify that when I'm talking about casual, and I feel like when we're talking about casual and the different levels of casual, I kind of mean what level of attention do I want to be playing the game versus what level of attention do I want to be giving my friends? Because sometimes it's just the equivalent of a board game night, and those are the decks that I am building to move slow, to, yes, they have interaction, and when I'm ready for the setup for the thing to do the thing, I get to be like, all right, everyone pay attention, here we go.
Yes.
And it's almost like a little event. And that's when I'm talking about casual, I mean how social is the game. Because there are definitely plenty of times where I have my high power casual decks and it's the same friends, but we're just in a different vibe that night. We're just in different moods. We all had bad days and we all want to make it each other's problems. And we're punching for it. Otherwise, we're just being little shits and we're spite playing because it's funny. Did it help us win? Probably not, but it was funny. And it's like that. There's a big range to casual. So really what I'm talking about being able to build for myself, it's my mid and low speed decks meant for not paying attention to the game as much as paying attention to my friends.
For sure. And that's the key right there. That's the biggest thing, is the attitude that you're taking and the vibe at the table. The last 2 commander pods that I was in, the last 2 games that I've played prior to us recording this, both, I got shut down and blown out. I got destroyed to the point where there was one turn where I played, I think I even Dark Ritualed for it. Or no, I didn't Dark Ritual for it, but I played Buried Alive. Found 3 things in my graveyard, and I think I even milled prior. So my graveyard was stacked. I was playing a Reanimator deck, feeling great. Passed to my buddy Jarvis Moonbeam. He played a Bajuka Bug. And it's like, and I was down to 2 cards in my hand. My graveyard was gone. It's like, well, that's been fun, guys. But the reality is, he was like, he had one of those, I'm so sorry, but we got to do this. And everybody else was laughing. And like, and I was laughing too,
funny.
It lined up. And the other part about that is, he didn't feel the need to like hold it back and not play it for fear of upsetting me.
Yeah.
We're all playing the game. That's a part of the game, And that interaction. And on top of that, he respected what I was trying to do and recognized that he had to do something about it. And that was his opportunity to do something about it. And he did. And I'm a graveyard player. Yes, you need to do something about it. Yes, it's a problem.
You need a minimum of one piece of graveyard hate in every deck. And
always, forever.
For most people who are using their graveyard, it will be a speed bump, but that speed bump can be more than enough time for others to surpass, or in your case, you were so close to the win, it shut you down.
Yeah, I was teed up. I was going to get, at least bare minimum Villas Broker of Blood down, out of my graveyard the following turn. And if you've ever played with that on the board, it's bargain basement Gristlebrand, but doggone it, still pretty good. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Yeah, this guy, Gristlebrand at home.
I love him.
I love him. He's beautiful. Yeah, Villas Broker Blood is 8/8 flyer for 8, and the text on it that really makes a difference is whenever you lose life, you draw that many cards, and so it's not a may, you just do it. And one of the great things with this is if you use the spell Reanimate, which brings a creature back, and then you lose life equal to its casting cost, you lose the life once it's on the battlefield. So he sees it, and you trigger, and you draw 8 cards off it. It's insane. So yeah, Villas Broker Blood is a beautiful, beautiful card, and I had him in my graveyard off of that Buried Alive, and then I watched him go to exile. So I was sad, but at the same time, it was a fun time. And the thing that I think a lot of an element that I would implore players to take is if somebody shut you down, they didn't prevent you from playing the game. That's an important detail. I think whenever I hear ban islands, or whenever I hear somebody say like, I hate when people are playing with the rest in peace and things in their sideboard.
Okay, but ban islands.
I mean, okay, but we can have that conversation. But the thing is, the interacting, like destroying your threats, removing your graveyard, those kinds of things are elements of the game.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's an important part of playing the game. And I love when my opponents aren't pulling punches. I don't want to get to the end of the game and wonder, did I win that game only because you let me? Right. I want to know that I won the game because I played well and earned it.
Yeah. And I totally get that. Even in my slower, more chill games, I still don't want people to pull their punches. It's just the amount of punches available to punch with are less or more or less frequent. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and here's actually another thing I want to point out. That's within the game. We were in a game. He had Bajuka Bong in his deck. It lined up to stop a graveyard. It did its job, Yeah. But that was something that was just in a deck. That was it. It was a Sir Conrad deck. It was a just mono black deck that was trying to do its own thing. It just fit the bill. It did the thing. Yeah. Cool. At no point, did Jarvis in this case pick a deck that could destroy a graveyard because he knew I was playing a graveyard deck. And I think that's important. That's one of the details when it comes to hate pieces, when it comes to stacks pieces, when it comes to interaction. Put them in your decks because you might go up against any of those things. And don't be afraid to use them. If the players that you're going up against have a problem with that, that's its own kind of discussion that needs to be handled on an interpersonal basis.
As long as you don't. As long as you're not purposely hard countering people for the sake of hard countering people. Also, when it comes to super low power, and this is my sassy take. Can you chill on the stacks pieces in low power? We're already gonna be there for 15 to 20 turns. What are you doing?
What? There are some that make you go, huh? And well,
it's not that they make me salty. I'm judging your ability to build a deck. What do you? Why do you want to be here for so long?
Which kind of stack pieces are you talking about? I mean, we're talking about Grand Arbiter. We're talking about Thalia.
Stuff like that. Yeah, things like that. But maybe not one or two, whatever. But when you build a stacks deck, an Azorius stacks deck that's supposed to be powerful as an OG precon, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, that is a fair question. At the end of the day, I think you need to understand what your deck's trying to do. That particular graveyard deck, that Absent deck, my baby, my 10 of the Harvester deck. The goal of that deck is to do some group hug elements early, ramp, allow everybody to draw some extra cards, fill the graveyard while providing that group hug to hopefully get everybody on board, and then I'm going to combo kill everybody on turn 10 or so. That's what that deck is trying to do. That's the ideal deck, or the ideal game plan for that deck. The combo that it generates requires a lot of setup in the graveyard and requires a lot of cards to line up correctly. I have a little bit of redundancy, but it's not an easy thing to pull off, and it will not happen early.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And I know that. And so as a result, I don't mind doing it, but the game's got to end at some point, so I have no problem with that. That's the ideal game plan for me. Give everybody a couple of turns to do their thing. I want to see everybody's thing. I have some interaction so I can slow some things down if it's going to become a little too hot, and I'm going to try to end the game decisively late, with some aristocrat pieces and some mass reanimation. That's the plan. What's your game plan? And control decks and stacks decks, the plan is often delay the game as much as possible, slow everything down, wipe the board often, make everybody pay twice as much as they want to, don't untap any lands. If that's your plan, what's the win? You better have a damn good one, and you better be able to get there.
Just get the goddamn win.
Just get the win. And that's the issue that people have with Farewell that comes up often, is it's so easy for this card to just be a speed bump that adds an hour to the game for zero value without even adding. And we've talked about this before, but like, but that's
my least favorite criticism. My least favorite criticism / favorite criticism of this card was that card is bad because it's meant to activate all modes, and that's stupid. I'm like, it's literally not. It says one or more.
Yeah.
And that mindset really of the whole ass card is bad because it was designed to be bad. No,
it's really not.
It's a 6-drop board wipe. It depends on what I've never activated all modes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least on Arena I have, because there's always that one deck that you are just not properly matched against, and they have steamrolled, and this is your Hail Mary.
But that's the thing. And in a casual game of Commander, if your Hail Mary is play the only card in your hand, which is a Farewell, select all modes, and just pray you top deck something without anything in your deck that will actually win the game, then that's falling into this trap of you're adding time just to add time. When you're building your decks, if the goal is casual, think of it in terms of casual. Stacks is rarely something that adds fun to the table. Be aware of that. I don't mind playing against some stacks elements. Like if there's a ghostly prison on the board, then trying to play around that, prioritizing the attacks into it, trying to find a way to remove it before I swing, those kind of things is fine. Honestly, the ghostly prison is one of my favorites. I have ghostly prison in a bunch of my decks because it's
a good card.
It's a good card, and you know what? Those Saproling and like Go White Elf decks, you gotta keep those in check.
I need more.
This is a good way to do it. All right.
Somebody send me a ghostly prison.
I'll see what I can find. Anyway, I've got a few lying around. All right. You can't get my ones with the good old Kamigawa art. This art makes me really happy. But anyway,
recently, my most recent deck that I built, and I need to finish it, finalize her. But Desdemona, Freedom's Edge from the Fallout release. I looked her up on EDH Rec, and at that point there were 10 decks. 10 decks. And I remember saying that I was surprised that there were that few decks, and people had very rude responses about how bad she was, and then listed every commander that could do it better. And I remember looking at that thread and being like, and this is why I feel like more people should have built her. She's odd. This is not a great card. I wouldn't even say this is a very good card. But this can be a funny as shit card, and I'm gonna find a way to do it. I'm gonna find a way. So I like.
This was actually one of your first preview cards, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it?
This was one of my first 3 preview cards that came out with the Fallout release. Those were so cool.
I think it's, absolutely, very cool.
That's cool. I have a cosplay for her now.
Nice.
Yeah, I did a cosplay for 0.3 seconds that you can see it in the video I made for the preview card.
Nice.
With a voiceover quote from the fucking video game, like a loser. Anyway.
That's amazing. What are you talking about? Yeah.
But so Chris Mooney actually was the one who designed this card, and I had the pleasure of speaking to them about this in Chicago. And they told me that they were very, very excited. They didn't think this would get approved, but if flavor was so perfect, they were able to bring Escape as a mechanic to this set only for Desdemona. And the flavor behind that is Desdemona is essentially a freedom fighter who is helping sneak synths out of the Institute, and the synths can think and feel emotion, and really they're as close to human as AI could be. And they want to be free. So she's helping get them out. So escape for artifact creatures and anything that costs 3 or less, because she was also getting children out that if they wanted to, and like anybody who wanted to get out of the damn Institute. But specifically the synths. So how could I not want it? The problem with escape is you have to exile 2 other cards in addition to its cost. So the actual cost of getting things out is a lot.
It's fairly steep, yeah.
So the idea of needing to fill a graveyard and get recursion in Boros.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to go like Mesmeric Orb and other.
What do I do? So I have built, rebuilt, built again over and over and over, trying to just figure out like how to do this. And also, can I get a win count other than combat damage in here? But I'm thinking I may not be able to. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
sure,
but she's going to be a super social commander. This is going to be a very low speed, maybe mid speed deck, because honestly, you can't make her strong.
Yeah, well, and right there,
she's not good.
But she's not good, but you should be able to play not good cards. If you can't play not good cards in casual Commander, where can you play them? And if the answer is nowhere, then why do they make them? You know?
Yeah, like I like the not so great cards because I find them interesting. And I find trying to make a way for it to work, even if it's, sorry, I'm pouring myself water, even if it's not the quickest speed, even if it's not the quickest speed, the challenge of having to think about it, of having to play test it, and like quite literally coming up with a list and a strategy on how to make it function at all. I love that. And I don't feel that way with every commander. Some of them are just obvious to try to build. Tiny Bones is a discard deck. Everybody needs empty hands. That's what we're doing. How we go about doing it, make them discard. They're very... Tiny Bones is built one way.
It's right there. It does the thing. Yep. You do the thing that it says on the card. Well, and there's so many commanders now that are getting printed that feel that way to me. You know, like most of the generic just commander cards, that you do the thing that it says on the card. Like they're very on rails, and I don't love that. My least favorite commander of all time. I've complained about this till I was blue in the face, and I'm not blue in the face again. So here we go. The Goshintai of Life's Origin. I despise this card. I despise everything it stands for. I hate it. And it's not because of the play pattern. It has nothing to do with the play pattern that it promotes. It's just shrines were fun. Shrines were cool. And they're not anymore because they built a commander that's the best commander for shrines. And now trying to build shrines with anything other than this in the command zone is choosing to build a deck at a disadvantage. And if I come up with a shrine deck with a different commander, like if I build a Kenrith shrine deck or a Sisay shrine deck, all of a sudden, if I bring that, and when it becomes clear in the middle of a game why I'm doing shrines, anyone who's never played against me before would just ask, like, well, why isn't that Goshintai? And I get to go into this rant again about how shrines had a downside. The biggest downside was that there was a limited number of them and they were legendary. So you had to, and they cared about how many there were on the battlefield. And so you had to find some way to cobble together getting multiples of different ones onto the battlefield, which is a very interesting deck building challenge. And this just said, now you just, and this one just says, no, now you get a bunch of shrine tokens. And now there are like 15 of them, or no, even more than that. So it's just like, whatever, just put all the shrines in your deck and you'll be fine. You put all the shrines in a handful of ramp pieces. Done. Like the deck just builds itself. It's not even fun.
I can tell you, shrine decks are the reason I moved as much removal as possible from like creature or enchantment to permanent.
Yeah. Yes.
Because
that's huge.
Sanctum of all. Sanctum of all.
Sanctum of all is pretty brutal. But yes. Target, hit a non-land permanent. Hit non-land permanents. That's a big deal. Cards like Utter End are a big deal. You need them. Run them all.
Stroke of Midnight, Generous Gift, Tear Asunder is a big fan.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you keep a handful of tokens with you, for whenever you're playing Commander, make sure to have a 3/3 Beast and a 3/3 Elephant in them at all times, because Generous Gift and Beast Within are everywhere. So
and
just
now
be ready.
1/1 Human, because Stroke of Midnight is going to be
Yep,
places too. Which,
another one very important to have. It's pretty good.
Even though that one says non-land, Generous Gift says permanent, does not matter. It's still delightful.
All great. Beautiful.
Yeah,
it's all beautiful.
like
there
have definitely been commanders coming out lately that I guess you could say have replaced commanders that were doing the thing. So like Gaio, Master Chef, Golgari, Food Commander. It is one of my babies. It is one of the earliest decks I built. It is my most fine-tuned deck, I would say. And we have all of this food support that came out, and now Yurga's here.
Yep. So, yeah, which is funny, too, because Gaiam didn't even come out that long ago. This was Strixhaven, wasn't it? So
that was Strixhaven. But Strixhaven's already out of standard.
Oh, it's been out of standard for a while, but we're talking like that was 3 years ago?
Oh, 3 years.
Yeah, 2021.
4 years.
So, yeah, it's been 3 years.
So he's not that old. And we had this, and then Greta came out with Eldraine.
True.
Which, like, granted, they're all different, obviously, but all three of them will always be in the same deck together.
Yeah, it's just the Golgari food. Who do you have at the top? Do the thing. Go.
I pulled Yarka, and I am seriously debating on whether or not to even put it in my Guillaume deck, because it's supposed to be so janky. I feel like this kind of ruins the spirit of the deck. The vibe that I had originally set was not to be brutal. It was supposed to be like, here's a buffet. We're eating too much. Everybody's getting too many 1/1 counters, and now Guillaume's a 40/40 unblockable.
Yeah, and that idea
but it turned
15. Right, that idea worked so much better before food became a well-supported archetype. Now it's everywhere. Food just has become a staple, especially the staple in Golgari. You know, because not only do we have it near in Bloomburrow, we also had it in Lord of the Rings. It's just
Eldraine.
And the Wild of Eldraine. The Return of Eldraine, okay, that makes sense, because Throne of Eldraine is what introduced it. So, okay. But much.
But
we've had multiple supplemental sets since that.
I'm not mad about it. It's cool that my deck was able to bump up in speed so that I can keep up with a few more tables than I used to with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know, because it's obviously a creature deck. Guillaume is all creature triggered.
Yeah. But I think the general consensus and the general feeling is, if a powerful option exists, that's the correct answer. And if you're choosing not to do that, you are in the
wrong.
And that's so messed up. Like,
it's like wrong, bad. You're what's wrong with Commander. It's like, no, I just want to play a variation of shit. Like, don't get me wrong. I fucking love my Sir Conrad deck. That is the first deck I ever built. That is my husband. I want to be buried with him. But, like, I'm not whipping out the deck with Nether Void in it on a regular.
No,
it's not happening, and I don't want to. So every time I end up being at a high-powered table, my high-powered are fucking Sir Conrad the Grim, goddamn Tiny Bones Trinket Thief, Lieza, Forgotten Archangel, Hard Exile typal deck, and then Hepatra, Vizier of Poisons, because I am very friendly and love making friends at the high-powered table.
There you go.
So I'm sorry, but if you want me to be nice to you, you need to build some jank.
Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah. Well, and it's always interesting too, how people define jank. I've had a couple of times where people have said like, oh, this is like a mid-power janky deck. And by the end of the game, they had a Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, a Jeweled Lotus in their graveyard. I'm like,
That's not janky. That's not
what?
mid anything. First of all, that's not mid anything.
No, that is very high. That is very high power. I've also had like janky mid-range players throw out like, Dark Ritual into a Necropotence, and I've actually heard the excuse, I'm just using it to refill my hand. And it's like, yeah, that's what makes it powerful. Instead, it allows you to consistently have a full hand every single turn.
Like sometimes I try to build a janky commander very, very powerfully just because I think it's funny. So, for example,
those are great.
Skeleton Ship.
Oh yeah, no, I love.
I'm finalizing it,
kind of stuff.
but I built Skeleton Ship, and I was toying with it, and Karlov came out, and that was great. I pulled Masker Girl. I already had the old one. I have a Yogg, so I was like, perfect. There's unnecessary heat in here. This is very, very silly. And then Thundy Junks was released, and it introduced us to crimes, and the entire fucking mechanic of this goddamn deck is crimes. So that is pretty much what sold it. It's even funnier that pirates are involved in the crime mechanics. So even though there's no pirates technically in the commander, look at it.
I mean, yeah, if you're not familiar with Skeleton Ship, it's an 0-3 for 5. At any time you don't control an island, bury it, which is fun. But it's an 0-3 for 5. Let me just think that in for a second. All because it has this clearly overpowered ability. Tap, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. That's it. It just dispenses one -1/-1 counter.
Not a good card.
Not great.
No, but
really not great.
When I was posting appreciation posts, I decided to search for legendary skeletons that day and saw what popped up, and I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, this card's great. Well, and also fun little side note as far as the market value is concerned. If you're wondering, like, is the card really that bad? Oh God, yes. This has only been printed once in Ice Age. The only paper printings that you can find are Ice Age, to give you an idea of how ancient this card is, right? So you would think, and it was a rare at the time, so like there weren't even that many of them back then. You can buy a copy of this for under $3 right now, even with supply as bad as it is. It's still a $3 card. Hey, there we go. To give you an idea. I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Somebody sent me this too. They were like, I have a copy. I'm like, why?
Well, because no one bought it. Yeah.
Nobody bought it. Nobody bought it. And I know it's not a good card.
Nobody wanted it. Yeah.
Like, I know it's not a good card. So these janky, weird little commanders, I'm trying to build powerfully. And the idea behind that is the entire deck's going to be able to stand on its own while giving everything whatever the main mechanic of the counter of the commander is without the commander, period. So the deck is built that Skeleton Ship does not need to be on the board for everything to be getting -1/-1s and being brutally affected by such.
Yeah.
Whereas
but
like
my
Desdemona, my Desdemona deck, she must be on the board for her to be able to work and use that recursion and use escape.
And that speaks to another element of deck building that I find really interesting and one that I kind of struggle with, if I'm honest. The idea of building to a point where your commander has to be present. And Desdemona is a good example of one where, like, if you're trying to fill your graveyard with things, she's what pulls them out, So it makes sense that that's going to be a key piece of what you're doing. And you can have, Sun Titan, or even, well, you can't have Lurrus because you don't have access to black, but, like, you can have a couple of other ways to pull stuff. So, like, maybe you're not completely, sunk if she's not there.
White has decent recursion for things that cost 3 or less. So you got that going for you.
But when people build a deck where the commander is necessary to execute the game plan, but people are following the other advice of running more interaction and running more removal, the correct thing to do from a strategic perspective is remove the commander when you can, because that's going to shut down the other player. Yeah. Which is strategically the correct thing to do. These are your opponents, after all. And so that produces some friction and a little bit of a dissonance that I think a lot of players feel. This notion of, I want to just play the game, but you keep killing my commander. I've specifically held up counterspells and removal when I saw a very threatening commander across the table because I knew I needed to answer it. Gishath comes to mind as one where it's like, if there's a Gishath in the pod, like what they do is very, very powerful.
And it's one of those, like, this is how Gishath decks are built. They don't have a lot of interaction. They're not going to have a lot of enchantments or artifacts. They're just going to have fucking ramp and dinosaurs. They're not even going to have card draw, just
No.
ramp
Just
and
rampant dinosaurs.
dinosaurs.
And if the person's smart, some way to protect Gishath on that turn that it swings. You know, that's an important piece. You know, if you have a Gishath player get to 8 mana and not drop the commander, be afraid, because you're in for a hard time. Like that's gonna suck. But Gishath players, if you start the game with this chilling in the command zone, it is a sword of Damocles that's just looming over all of us. It is an expiration date on the entire game, because if this hits the battlefield and then proceeds to hit whoever is sad enough to not have any blockers that turn, we're all screwed. The game is over unless it gets swept. And so from starting with my starting 7, I know that's going to happen. If I have a Go for the Throat or an Infernal Grasp in my hand, it's got its name on it. I'm holding it forever until this comes down.
Zakama also comes to mind for that, because I just posted that as an appreciation post. And there are just some commanders that no matter how you build them, they're a fucking house. You could build some of these decks with vanilla creatures, no keywords on them whatsoever, and they would still be a house. Zakama is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, and so playing the game correctly is going to stop that from happening. And so is the correct response to that to complain that nobody's letting you play, or is the correct response to that to build the deck to understand that people will bring interaction and I need to play around it? Yeah. You know? And because you can. Fun fact, and this is coming from a graveyard player, I've gone up against people who have Leyline to the Void or Rest in Peace in a game of Commander. And you know what? I don't get upset. When a Rest in Peace hits the battlefield, I just look for answers. Like
usually I start laughing hysterically, and like I have the faux salt, go fuck yourself kind of like attitude.
Yeah, like a little bit of trash talk. That's one thing. As long as it's as long as you know each other.
Never mean it. It's always like in good fun. And I'll even do it with people I just met, but it's one of those like, oh, okay, I see how it is.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I thought we had a good thing going, but okay.
Like it's always like so like goofy, and that's to me, because I'm still crazy fucking competitive. Don't get me wrong.
Sure, of course.
I may try to win on turn 20, but bitch, I'm trying to win.
I'm trying to win. Exactly. That's exactly right. So don't be afraid of interaction, but be aware of interaction. Build your deck with interaction in mind. Prepare yourself for it. You know,
like
I got a whole bunch of destroy target non-land permanent in my deck, so I can get rid of stuff like that. I have it. Yeah. I need to find it. Let's go.
My most powerful deck that 100% relies on the commander, and this is the only one that I'm still trying to troubleshoot how to make it so she's more protective, is Nira Wild Mage. And part of the thing with that deck is you build it in a way that has a fuck ton of incredibly cheap cards and a fuck ton of incredibly expensive cards. And I built it as a dragon deck. So I peak at about 6. Which is low. Honestly, it's low for a Nira deck. The grossest way to build her is typically with Eldrazi.
Nice. Or things like Omniscience and that kind of, you could go, you can go hard.
And I have an Omniscience in there. I have a Leyline of Anticipation. Like, I have a Rhystic in there. Her, I built strong as fuck. And part of the thing is because it can fall apart very quickly if she's removed. She's 6. She's a 6-drop commander. People who are familiar with Nira decks and how they pop off will immediately get rid of her. And people who don't will regret it within a couple of turns.
Yeah, they'll learn.
And it's one of those like, I'm still trying to figure out how best to protect her and how best to go about it and how to get the deck to be running a little bit better without her on the field. But it's tough because of her mechanic. She's kind of built to be only worked around her.
Yeah. And so I guess where I'm going with this, the kind of the question that I'm curious about is it casual if there's enough interaction for commanders to consistently be removed? I think honestly, absolutely. I think it still is. I think it's a feature of the game. You know, and the other, the other element about that I want to call out specifically is don't let the game or the other players around you take away your agency as the deck builder and the player. Play around stuff. And if you feel like there's one situation where you're always losing to it, adjust so that you can be prepared for it. That's what, professional players do. That's what, that's what good players do. And also, if you don't think that your skill in Magic matters, it absolutely does. And believe it or not, if you try to improve, you will have more fun. That's another thing I want to call out. So like if one thing is consistently happening, prepare yourself for that to happen. And be ready for it. And then you get the satisfaction of stopping it or playing around it successfully, stymieing it and beating it. And trust me, that's the best feeling in the world. When something that has been roughing you up is no longer a threat to you. Oh, it's the best.
It's so good. Like anybody who's watched my stream will watch me get like infuriated over like one thing that keeps happening. And I'll go into my deck and be like, fuck you, more counter spells. Like,
right? Exactly. Yes. More counter spells. And I'll have decks that have like 5 creepers on the sideboard. Like, bring them in. Let's go. I'm coming for you. Yeah, exactly. It feels great to in playing best of 3 standard. It's awesome because there's so many times where somebody will just absolutely just wreck my business in game 1. I get access to my sideboard, bring in 7 cards that are going to be good against them, and then I just run the table on them twice in a row and win the match. It feels fantastic. Love it. Okay, that's standard. It's not commander. Different vibe, but similar idea. If there's a piece of hate, if there's a certain play pattern that consistently is problematic, especially if you're in a play group, and this is where things get weird. If there's a group of people that you play with regularly and there's a certain deck that you see regularly, teching specifically against it might be a little bit of a dick move, but at the same time, to a point. If you have 1 or 2 pieces that you've added to your deck specifically to address a problem that one of your friends does regularly, I feel like 1 or 2 pieces is fine. If you build a complete commander deck where all 99 cards are designed to stop them, now you're being a dick. You better maybe pump it back a little bit. But in general, you see the distinction. If one of your buddies is constantly playing graveyard decks, go out and pick up a Leyline of the Void. Go out and pick up a Rest in Peace. Have one. If they can't deal with it, that's their problem. It's a part of the game, And it's funny. I am a massive graveyard player. I have like 12 decks. I think 9 of them use the graveyard in some way. Like if I'm not using my graveyard, I feel like I'm leaving money on the table. Like it's right there. It's like they're my cards. I should be able to do something.
2 zombie decks. I have 3 mono black decks. Like I just finished my Bontu God Eternal, but because I'm a graveyard player, I hate it when my graveyard keeps getting removed. It's a pain in the ass, right? So what did I do? I built my worst nightmare as a graveyard player, and one of my favorite decks is my Liaise of Forgotten Archangel that has a Rest in Peace. It has a Leyline of the Void. It has a fucking Armageddon. I went hard. Everything is exile and removal. It is a brutal deck. And I did it simply because I hated a certain mechanic. So what drives me crazy now? Simic math. What am I finishing building? Hackball. Let's go.
Get it. Well, and
but like Liaise is disgusting when built fully around exile. This is such a fucking house.
Yeah. Oh, she's great. Well, and that's the thing. As somebody who abuses the graveyard, knows how good the graveyard is, I'm the biggest, most vocal advocate for graveyard hate. You need to stop me. If you don't stop me, I'm going to ruin your whole day. And then,
I feel like she should just be in Orzhov decks.
Right?
Like she's one of those.
Absolutely, yeah. If you have access to these colors, she probably should be in there, yeah.
Just try to get her in.
Yeah.
She's good 99.
Yeah, no, she's great for sure, 100%. But yeah, and so that's one example of just something, because some people when they see, well, I play a graveyard deck and somebody rocked put down a ground seal or somebody put down a Rest in Peace, that just ruined my whole thing. They were targeting me. It's like, no, they're not. They are targeting one set of resources that you're relying on. Like, you have power, you have agency, you have the ability to stop the hate. You have an ability to break that and still execute your game plan, or execute a secondary game plan that doesn't require that resource. Like you have options. You have a ton of power. If your deck is so on rails that the only thing it is capable of doing requires that one line, if the only thing your deck can do requires your commander to be online, or requires your graveyard to be accessible, or requires you
have to protect it,
then there's something. Then the deck is, I believe, the deck could probably be better. The deck could be more flexible. It could be more adaptive, and
even at like super low speed. Yeah, even at low speed and stuff. Like I wouldn't put a Rest in Peace in a low speed game just because I feel like that would end up slowing shit down too much.
Yeah.
But I play Leyline of the Void in my mid-speed shit for sure.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. Like this, I just feel like goes a little too hard if I want to win by turn 20. I feel like it's going to take forever. But if I'm looking to win between turn like 10 to 15, all right, Leyline of the Void. It'll buy me time to build my shit, shit like that. But I mean, I don't want to be a run more removal person because every like level of speed of commander is going to have different removal amounts. However, run a variety of removal is more my
I like that
advice.
Okay.
People are going to abuse enchantments and artifacts because they're much harder to remove than creatures. Do not be afraid to add single target removal to your commander decks. There seems to be this thought that single target removal is inherently not good in commander. It is bad in commander. And I can tell you right now, I started winning a lot more games when I started running more single target removal and not focusing on mass removal, because I don't always need to get rid of my own shit to fix a problem.
Because it's so funny, and I completely agree. The number of just individual targets, and you mentioned the flexibility of being able to hit any non-land permanent.
Yes.
Like that's very useful. But
and even like keep a ghost quarter. You have a piece of serious land removal.
Yes.
God forbid somebody throws out a Nykthos. Or like, someone playing a god deck and they play a world tree. Like just shit like that. You don't have to play it, and it replaces with a basic land. You can't get a more casual version of land removal than things like that.
Ghost Quarter is a great example.
Volatile field,
like
demo field,
demolition field, or any of that jazz. That's a great example of one that I think a lot of people think, oh, I can't run land destruction. It's like, this is like the land replaces itself. You're not like, this is not an Armageddon, not at all.
Okay.
And,
no,
and if your buddy has a Gaia's Cradle, you got having a way to remove it is very real.
That's okay.
That's fair. You are not doing anything wrong. Fine. Yeah, you're doing totally fine. And also, you mentioned artifacts and enchantments being very problematic. I cannot tell you how valuable something as simple as a disenchant can be.
I run disenchant in every single white deck because I think people forget, like, you don't need an essay worth of words for the card to be equally as effective. Like, would it be cool if it had, I don't know, Surveil or Scry or Gain Life?
Sure.
Yes. Do I give a shit? No, because it gets the job. The goal is to get rid of the artifact or the enchantment, and it's instant speed and it's cheap as shit. Let's go. Every white deck. I even have printings in Italian.
I love it. Well, Disenchant's one of those where, like, this is one of those cards where if you have a friend who has been playing for more than 2 or 3 years, just ask, hey, you got a disenchant lying around? The answer is yes, I'm sure. I have like 7, right? Which art do you want? Because they get reprinted all the time. I mean, it was even reprinted most recently in frickin' Brothers War. Like, it's legal in standard right now as a common.
Yep.
This is,
I love it.
Like, it's great. Like, this is one of those. And I love the art on the disenchant for Brothers War specifically, because with Brothers War, it's like, it was kind of a very high tech, situation where it's all artifice. It's Urza versus Mishra. They're very, they build mechs and war machines and all kinds of stuff. And it's art by Richard Kane Ferguson, who, if we can just stop for a second, just freaking this dude's an absolute legend. But this artwork shows what looks like one of Mishra's battle engines getting blasted by by some kind of infantry person or some kind of that's probably like a Yoshian soldier now that I think about it. And it looks like they're holding the BFG 9000. Like, it seriously looks like the Doom guy is like blasting a battle mech. It's so weird.
Oh, I love it. That's very funny.
Yeah, yes. It's the Doom Marine blasting some kind of Mishra.
Yes.
I love it.
And so one of these in every fucking deck. Actually, you know what card I've been playing a lot recently? Erase. Erase.
I don't think I know this.
Nobody knows this card. I don't know why. It's very simple. But the fact that it's exile for 1 drop, and again, people are winning with enchantments and artifacts sometimes. Like, on a very, very regular basis. this works on that turn 4 Smothering Tithe, and no one can get it back. It's just gone. It's gone forever now. That's why, like, I started playing this and Cast into Fire 2-drop red instant that exiles an artifact.
Mm-hmm.
It's
yeah.
those became my go-tos.
Could you imagine? I mean, I love this because, like, even if you're the dead last in the turn order, right? It's turn 4.
Yeah.
Planes go. You go to the next person who played a Soul Ring on turn 1. Turn 2, Rhystic Study. You're like, all right, cool. Erase.
No.
Like, I won't pay the 1. You get the 1 card. Good work.
And it's a common from Tarkir, right? It's a common.
Yeah. I love this.
No one uses this. No one and like I understand it's because it only targets an enchantment.
So,
but like,
there's so many amazing enchantments out there, and the other thing that a lot of decks can do, is like simply loot it away. You know, if it's turn 4 or 5 and there's no good targets for it,
that's okay.
Discard it to some other effect. You know, like
so enchantment creatures. This will hit enchantment creatures. That includes the gods from Theros.
So you just
you can exile Heliod.
I love that.
Like this has more uses than people realize.
So somebody's pulling off the Heliod Walking Ballista combo. It's like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. Does anyone have a response? Yes, I do.
Yes. I have this rinky-dink little Tarkir card nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah, I got this thing that I pulled off the back of a bulk bin, and the person in my LGS didn't even charge me for it. Yeah, that's...
I found it on Arena when the Tarkir remastered.
Showed up. Yeah,
those came out when the cons came out. So I just opened a whole bunch of packs, and this was in it, and I was like,
"Oh, wait a minute!"
And I just started running it in like every white deck, and I cannot tell you how many times it has just come in clutch. I'm looking at you, Sanctum of All.
You know, and if you go to order some of these when we're done, you know, by the time you're listening to this and you notice like, wait, somebody just bought 50 of these. What's the story? Yo, hey, that was me. All right. Because this is a great piece of tech. I love this. You know, and it's funny because it's great. Well, I knew Demystify. If I can spell that correctly, I sure hope I can. Demystify is a classic. Nope, sure can't. There we go. It's an older one. It says it's very similar, where it's 1 mana destroy target enchantment. But yeah, Exile's much nicer with those gods running around. Yeah. So no, Erase is definitely better. But yeah, no, Demystify, it takes me back actually, because it was originally printed in, at least the first time I saw it was in Onslaught. Yeah, this beauty right here. Oh, anyway.
Well, that's cool art.
Yeah, it's lovely.
I'm
a
like
fan.
That.
Yeah, Onslaught Block had some banger art for sure. When the Mirari was just wrecking shop all over Dominaria, it was fun. Yeah, we had a good time. Yeah, all the elves were all messed up, and the clerics all wore like wicker masks over their faces. It was weird, but it was fun. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, good stuff. And all the soldiers had no mouths for some reason. Not sure what was up with that. The Daru had a thing going. Anyway, yeah. I'm not kidding. It was a thing.
Oh my god! No, I believe you, but why?
But what? I don't know. Like I'm not. But why? Great question. There were whole books explaining it, but I haven't read them, so I just look at the cards and go, "That's messed up, huh?" Yeah.
Sorry, I'm yawning. Oh my goodness.
You are fine. It's all good. Well, we are coming up on an hour, so you know, this has been as unhinged as ever, which is always delightful. So I feel like I know when it comes to this kind of discussion. For me, the way that I've approached it is I stop really worrying about high power versus low power when I'm building my decks, and I don't even really stress that speed that much, if I'm completely honest. I kind of build all my decks to fit into the same zone where they're not overly powerful. I have Soul Ring and maybe a couple of other situational ramp pieces, but nothing too crazy. Like I don't run Jeweled Lotus or any of that jazz in any of my decks. Honestly, and fun fact, I have actually cracked a Jeweled Lotus, but I actually gave it away because I genuinely just don't like the card.
Oh, damn.
I hate that it exists, and I'm trying to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm not going to play it. You know, and that was one of the, I actually gave that to my dad because I know he'd appreciate it.
I'd super happily play it in CDH.
In CDH, 100%. Totally different story. I have no issue with that.
I would play it in Sir Conrad. I would play it in Sir Conrad because my Sir Conrad is like, it's so... I've sat at a CEDH table with Sir Conrad, and I fucking stuck it out for entirely too long.
Nice.
I even took someone out. Don't know how I did it.
Hey, get after it.
And I was playing with like Cass Wiley, so I wasn't playing with people who sucked at CEDH.
Right. Nice.
But,
That's awesome.
But that's kind of it. I don't want.
Yeah. I don't play CEDH, and
Yeah,
so
I
it's
don't
one of those
want
things
to
where
put them
like,
out so
would I be
quickly.
willing? Would I be willing to put a Black Lotus in my deck? If the answer is no, I would rather not have a Jeweled Lotus because there are some scenarios where it's equally as good. And I think free mana in addition to our land drops is kind of annoying. And yes, I understand that Soul Ring is problematic in that regard as well, but it's become just a necessary staple. And so that one, I'm willing to give myself a pass on that one just because absolutely everyone and their mother has it, and it's become emblematic of the format. That's one of those where that's a whole other discussion we could have, is whether or not Soul Ring should be banned. It never will be at this point because it's just so ingrained in the format.
My favorite
without it.
free mana spell, like I will admit, I love me a Mox Amber and shit, but it's because it's tethered to legendary creatures and it's not just like 0-drop any mana immediately.
It's not turn 1 mana immediately, exactly. Unless you're running Rogak, in which case that's cool synergy, bro. But anyway,
that would be great. I'm not, but that would be cool.
Right.
But my favorite free mana is Diamond Lion.
Ooh, okay.
It's a 3-cent, it's a 10-cent card. Nobody plays this. I don't blame them. But it comes from Lion's Eye Diamond idea. But it's just a creature. So you got an artifact creature. There's so many uses for those. And this will give you free mana. So
yeah, and you get to discard your hand.
Yeah,
that's right.
And these are.
I'm not saying you have to. You get
to. Like, to me, this is the kind of bad tech that I absolutely love in Commander.
Yeah, and this requires you to jump through some. See, this is a ramp piece. You know, like you're not. Yeah. This isn't free. It's a 2-drop. It's a creature. Yeah. It can get removed. It's, you know, and you still have to discard your hand in order to get, like, Lion's Eye Diamond. It's so funny that Lion's Eye Diamond has become such a powerhouse and is beloved as this, like, incredibly, you know,
it's so expensive
vintage playable masterpiece. So Lion's Eye Diamond, it's a 0-drop. You sacrifice it, discard your hand, draw 3 mana, or add 3 mana of any one color. That's it. That's all it does. So having to discard your hand is such a massive downside. Like, on its face and in most decks, this card sucks. Like, it's really bad. The thing about it is, though, when you put it in decks that can play spells from exile, play spells off the top of your deck, play out of your graveyard, like, getting to discard your hand is a benefit. If you build your deck designed to take advantage of this and designed to use it, then it's phenomenal. And so, you know, and so the power of this thing is undeniable in decks that can support it. But this is one where if you show up to a Commander pod and your deck has a Lion's Eye Diamond or a Diamond Lion in it, I want to see what you did to take advantage of this. Like, I want to see this.
I'm like
what's about to happen, because that's going to be weird. It may be powerful. It may end the game fast, but you're going to show me something I haven't seen before.
No. Yeah, like I'd be like, all right, now I know we're mismatched, but I'm interested.
Well, you have my attention. Show me what you got. Exactly. Like,
like, if you're gonna steamroll me, I want you to beat me hilariously.
Oh yeah. No, I'm with you. But the only deck that I ever had that was designed to get infinite mana. I have some decks that can get infinite mana, but you got to really work for it. I had one deck that was designed to go hog wild on infinite mana, and it was in Sultai. And I had, you know, what do you do once you have infinite mana? Well, it was Tassiger, so I draw my whole deck. But I could have just put an Insanguinate in the deck, and it's like I just cast this and win the game, easy peasy. But I didn't have one at the time, and so I built it with Folio of Fancies. So the whole idea was I had ways to skip my draws, and I just made everybody draw their whole deck. It was so dumb. It was this blue fireball that hit everybody at the table. It was ridiculous. And like, is that the best way to play that? No, of course not. That was not optimized at all. And it was Tassiger, so like, he is a potential CEDH commander, but like.
Yeah, but it wasn't a CEDH deck.
That wasn't a CEDH deck, exactly. Well, and I don't have it anymore because the deck felt very much like a kind of a one-trick pony. Like, once you do the thing, It felt almost like a magic trick, you know? And which actually that deck, I had one of the a very fun game that I had with that deck, that if you have a goofy ass combo deck that requires a convoluted combo, I highly recommend you do this. If you're playing a game with someone who you've never played with before or hasn't seen that deck before, let them borrow it and don't tell them how the combo works and see if they can figure it out mid-game. Holy crap, is that fun.
That's so really funny. Like a social experiment.
I got buddied by my buddy Austin playing that Tassiger deck, and I was just like, this is a combo deck. Yes, it goes infinite. I'm not going to tell you how. Here you go. And he was like, okay. and that was a fun experience. And it was weird kind of watching him kind of like, because there were a couple of times, and the moment where he just kind of like would draw a card and like,
is that it?
Like,
is that
it? What are you, huh? And like, oh, it was great. So yeah, I highly recommend give that a shot. It's great. And that's
I like letting people borrow decks. Like I've had so people. The only deck that anybody has ever wanted to borrow from me is my stupid little food deck.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, this was before it had heavy support and it was at its jankiest. But I would play it, and I would play it in pods where everybody was a CEDH player. Everybody had $10,000 decks and they had the card kind of thing. There was no proxies. So they were very, very quick, go hard. Even like they could barely play casually. They couldn't get into a social mindset. Right. But they would play their lowest power deck so that I could sit at the table with them, and I would play this stupid little food deck. And I never won with it. Keep in mind, I've never won with this deck. It is my favorite deck.
That's amazing. I love it.
But my friend borrowed it just because it looked so fun, and he ended up winning with it because he's better at Magic than I am. And at the time, I just learned Commander. I did not know what I was doing. And he was just like, that's one of the most fun decks I've ever played. And I'm like,
that's awesome. Yeah.
This is why I want to be able to build with bad decks. And I want to be in a very brewer mindset. So I guess in summation, my final thoughts is I want there to be space for brewing of every speed.
Yes. Bottom line.
I don't want to have to build to find a table. I want to feel like I can build for me and find a place to play the stupid deck.
Agreed. I love that.
And for anybody comes for me, remember, my favorite enchantment is Nether Void.
Well, and that's right there. We can play all of that. There should be a place for high power. CEDH should exist. I think it's great. I have no issue with any of this jazz. But let me play the dumb slow stuff. Yeah. Just let me play the dumb slow stuff, you know? And you know what? More than anything, be nice to people who are playing dumb slow stuff.
Yes, don't be a dickhead to them because like you're playing slow, I want you out of the game. That has happened to me before. Where I've been targeted because somebody didn't want to play the speed that they agreed to play.
It's not okay. Yeah. Bottom line. Biggest thing, be cool. Be cool with each other, you know, and recognize what's going on at the table, how people are playing, and play to win. Play your deck to win. If you bring a deck that wins fast into a casual pod and maybe you didn't calibrate correctly,
that's okay.
Get a temperature check. Get a temperature check. I know I've been in plenty of situations where I've had an okay start, and then somebody found a combo kill like way faster than we all thought it was going to happen, including them. And as long as they're not giggling and twirling their mustache while they're doing it, as long as it's, oh, damn, this actually works better than I thought. Oh, guys, I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad.
Here's the cool thing, though. In those kind of situations, you can do one of two things. I've seen it handled two different ways. One, you pop off, murder all of us, but hey, we still have an hour, so do you want to play another game? Which, rad. Nothing wrong with that. The other thing that I've seen people do is recognize, oh, I have infinite. I could win right here, but you guys have established some board states and done some stuff, so what I'm going to do is I will concede. And you guys can continue playing with an understanding that, like, you're playing for second or whatever. But it's just like, you know, and that's fine too.
I like doing that. That one's fun sometimes because
I think it's a classy move where it's. I think
it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable to build an alt win con that goes infinite. Like I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to do in casual. Yeah, like I'm a big fan of the life drain combo, but it takes so long to get to. And if you remove the exquisite blood, there is no combo kind of thing, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't mind an infinite. If you hit it before you expect to, that's so funny. That's so funny. And like,
Just let it
if
happen.
I've hit it before, and I've either been like, you know what, I'm just actually just gonna discard the exquisite blood altogether because I want to try to just hit you.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen people do that too. And there have been plenty of games. Actually, I think there were at least 2 games that I can think of that I ended up winning. At various times. You were a part of one of them where I think it was you actually had a board wipe in hand and you said, I could wipe this, but we've already been at this for 2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. There was the Eternal Wanderer.
I was tired. Yes,
yeah,
we were
the
done.
Eternal Wanderer Oathbreaker pod. Like I won that pod, but it was just because we all got tired and I had the board at the time.
Because the game needed to end, not because someone was going to win.
Yeah, no, if we were playing optimally, you would have swept me and we would have kept going and who knows how it would have turned out.
It would have been a 6-hour, we'd still be playing.
We would still be playing. Exactly. That was weeks ago and we would still be playing. Exactly. So,
it's been so long, it's up on YouTube.
yeah. And so I'm not going to be like, I was the best player at the Wonder again. No, it was just, I happened to be on top and got lucky when we were all tired. That's all it was. We all took turns being the threat. I just happened to be the threat when we all ran out of steam. You know, that's all it was. And there was at least one other game as well where I'm trying to think of it where, there's one that I lost heartily that I might have actually been able to rebuild and step into if somebody had fired a wipe. But again, it had gone on long enough and I'm not mad. And then there was, that's happened a couple of times. And call it out. Say, like, I have this. The strategically correct thing for me to do is to do this, but I'm going to choose not to, just to see what's going to happen. And especially if it's very clear what the outcome would be. Like, if you have an infinite combo, and just choosing, I'm going to discard this rather than play it out. And, like, can we all acknowledge that just happened? Yes, I chose not to do this.
Yeah.
Now
like,
let's
sometimes
continue.
I just don't want to end the game that early. Like, sometimes I do legitimately have it on 5. I've had the combo on 5. And I just... Because I have it in, my big one that I have it in is Gitrog.
Okay.
And Gitrog, the way it's built is I'm trying to rip through my entire deck to find that combo. So I have Exquisite Blood, but then I have Dinah, I have, Marauding Blight Priest, I have Veto, I have like different cards that it synergizes with. So sometimes I just have it on 5, and I have absolutely discarded it and been like, you know what? I'm just gonna try to punch you guys with Gitrog and see what happens. Like,
yeah, and that's the joy of the social game, and you can all accept that. Like, okay, if we were playing hyper competitively, you probably would have, you would have just won right here, and we can all acknowledge. And there's an understanding that on our cosmic score sheet there's an asterisk next to whoever wins, but like, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. We're here to have a fun time.
The wins that I will never be mad at, I can never be mad when they win, is the group hug players. Don't tell them I said that.
Wait, what?
I will never be mad when a group hug player wins, because it is always the most convoluted, complicated, insane walk around. Nobody can follow this fucking map to Tortuga way of getting a combo. I don't even know what happens by the time I've lost the game. Like, all right, I have this Azorius rabbit on the board, and isn't he cute? And then all of a sudden, the most infinite combo, a 45 card infinite combo that took an hour and a half to set up. My God, did you earn it? I cannot be mad.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
This fucking guy. This fucking guy right here.
Oh yeah, you mentioned Azorius Rabbit. I knew exactly what you were talking about. Quain, itinerant meddler.
His name. Or like fucking Flumph.
Flumph. I love me some Flumph.
Fucking Flumph.
Fucking
some
Flumph.
of the. Yep, and now, thanks to Bloomborough, we have a brutal group hug bunny precon. What's her name? Bumbleflower?
Bumbleflower.
Something absolutely painfully adorable.
Miss Bumbleflower. Yeah, Miss Bumbleflower is an interesting one. The showcase, well, no, let me start. So the normal printing of Miss Bumbleflower that is available in like the precons, and collector packs and all that jazz is like going for like $150. She's a Bant Rabbit, 1/5 for 4. Vigilance, whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card. You put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, gains flying till end of turn. If this is the second time this ability resolves, you draw 2 cards. So you can hand out cards to your opponents, and as you're doing so, you're drawing cards, you're getting counters on your dudes. Yeah, interesting setup, very, very group hug. Super group hug. The huggiest group hug bunny. Fun crazy fact, the showcase
so
printing of Miss Bumbleflower, which is equally as adorable.
It's so cute.
It's freaking cute. It is. So the normal printing is going for like $150. This showcase printing is selling for hundreds of dollars. It's like $250 or $300 right now.
Hey, nothing's gonna play her enough for that to make sense. Oh, she's a 1.5?
1.5.
Oh shit, girl.
Yeah, she's thick. Yeah. Is that an appropriate thing to say about like an anthropomorphic bunny? Not even a little bit, but there we are.
I mean, we'd all be anthropomorphized should we have been there. So, squirrel, obviously. Squirrel.
Yeah, you're squirrel.
Honestly, could I be anything else? Could I?
Nope.
Could I?
No.
This squirrel pre-com, by the way.
Maybe lizard, but squirrel. That's squirrel. Yeah. Let's
see. I thought bat. Bat was my other one.
Bat. Okay, I can see that.
I'm very nocturnal, and when I don't want to be around people, I will fly away silently into the night. I'm also very clumsy.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So okay, I'm curious. What do you think I am? I have an idea.
Frog, and I don't mean that as an insult.
Frog. I'll take frog. Frog's pretty cool. I was thinking I was a bird. Yeah,
I could see that.
Because
sorry.
What? No, you're fine.
I pulled the Kai car reprint, and I need to brag.
Ooh, very nice.
Anyway,
that's pretty great.
I could see burb.
Yeah,
I saw frog.
Yeah, I'll take frog is cool.
Yeah,
how frog.
So pretty.
The thing that that is a lovely card. So yeah, I was mainly thinking bird because like the mechanical identity behind birds in Bloomborough is all about buffing each other and helping the community, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. That's like I try my best to help boost people up. So that's I like that, and it's one of the when people ask like, oh, would you rather have flight or invisibility? The answer has been flight so aggressively that like I don't even know why it's a question. It's like, you mean to tell me that you might have the ability to give me a chance to launch myself into the air and not fall flat on my ass, and there is anything else? Like, this is a discussion? Like, why aren't you like what are we doing here? Come on. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Meanwhile, like, does wonder is reincarnation a thing? Because I have been like genuinely sad that I couldn't just jump and keep going. Like I want to fly so fucking badly. It's not even. Yeah. I was actually really disappointed when I found out that because my eyes are so bad, I could never be a pilot. I was like, that would have been a thing. But I learned really early on that my eyes were terrible, so I adjusted my expectations.
Sometimes I totally believe reincarnation is a thing, and I always identified as a merfolk, which is actually kind of odd because I am truly, I have that phobia of the open ocean. I forget what it's called, but
being reasonable.
But I'm like, maybe if being crazy, if reincarnation is actually a thing, and mer peoples were ever a thing,
I mean,
then I'm afraid because I know what's down there.
Exactly. Yeah, you have reason to be. It's real. There are genuine monsters that we haven't seen before in the bottom of the ocean. Like
we know less about the ocean. We know less about the ocean than we do about space. So, like, to me, I think that's more horrifying than anything else because we are so much closer to it, because it affects us, because we use the ocean. Like,
we have cruise liners going right over top of it right now. Like if you're on a boat in the ocean, you're over top of some ancient world that we've never explored. That's a thing.
And I have always been into marine life, things.
It's very interesting.
If I'm not living near the water, I die a little bit inside. Like, I'm so tied to the ocean and water. I'm like, totally. If I were a mythical creature, I'd be a Selkie. And
okay, good shout.
Yeah, because I would lure people to their death.
Of course, yeah.
I'm not getting out of the water. Yeah. I'm busy. And then when I don't want to be there anymore, I'm gonna silently fuck off and float away into the murky water, and you won't find me.
There you go. Done. Boom. It all checks out. It all comes back around. Let's go.
But I know what's there, and that is why I fear the ocean, and that is why I should play more Krakens in Magic. In this essay, I will.
Yes. Noted. Well, they did make a creature Kiora, if I may recommend. Sovereign of the Deep. This could be a really fun commander.
And I have the secret layer.
Oh,
The animal secret lair. Where the fuck did it go?
I have no idea.
The Bloomborough secret lair that they printed. Kiora's in it.
Oh, tight. Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know where.
yeah.
They made her an axolotl.
That's right.
Okay.
Which I gotta be honest is pretty adorable.
She's an axolotl, and it's her Kiora Behemoth Beckoner. So it's one where when you control creatures for or greater.
Yeah, the one that he's playing Green Devotion. Yeah.
Yes. So I built my hackball deck, but I really don't have a reason to put her in there because I have so few things that start with a 4.
Well, okay then.
They all get 1/1s from exploring.
Oh, so there's just another deck in your future. That's all. Maybe you got to build Glarb or something. I don't know. Yeah.
That's the plan. I plan on building Glarb because I have a lot of big stompy green shit and nothing to do with it.
Boom, done. That's it. Glarb, get Kira in there. Yeah.
So if anybody wants to send me a Glarb and a Maha, because this stack of cards is for Maha that I did not pull and I do not own. just like this box, this is a Carmen deck. I don't own her.
Actually, I've been in that position before where I'll build a whole 99 and then realize I don't own the commander. It's like, well, I guess I have everything but that now. Awesome. Actually, my Tasigur deck, I started with a proxy of Tasigur because for that reason. It was the only card I didn't have. Yeah. So it is.
I almost built an Edgar Markov deck.
Yeah.
But he's a $99 card. And it occurred to me that, like, yes, I could obviously proxy it, but when I have an important card in my deck like that, I want the proxy to turn into a real thing one day, and I was just going to be depressed looking at my proxy of my commander knowing I'm just never going to hold him.
That's fair. And when it's funny, when I say proxy, I mean, like, literally, it was a basic land, and I had put a sticky note on it that had my little pencil drawing of the artwork that was terrible. That was how I did it.
Brilliant.
And it was actually funny. I actually got really attached to the little Post-it note. So when I got the actual card, I put the Post-it note on it in the sleeve.
I love that.
Nope, this is still,
That's very
cute. This is still my card. Anyway, I thought so.
Oh my goodness. We should wrap this up because you and I have D&D.
We do. So yes, by the time you're watching this, that will have been done. But we have D&D tonight, which is going to be fun. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, for hanging out with us, for the more unhinged, soupy ramblings. We appreciate you. So yeah. What? So
soupy ramblings.
Soupy ramblings. Is that not what we're doing here? Anyway. Oh, one more thing before we go. There's been a lot of talk about the Midwest as of late. And so there's an altar that Bruja made that I gotta be honest is a thing of beauty. So there's a hot soup altar, officially flavor named Hot Dish. Which, if you've never had dinner at an aunt's house in Minnesota, like I have many times, you may not know what a hot dish is. It's a casserole, but it's not just a casserole. It's a hot dish. It's a very important, piece of Minnesotan culture. I love it. I love it so much.
Like, there's a good chunk of the Midwest that calls it, but like the idea came because I made my boyfriend make me a hot dish recipe. I'd never had one.
There's a popular hot dish recipe making the rounds on the internet as we're recording this.
Yes. It is so good. Delicious. And hot soup is my favorite Magic card because it's so funny. And I couldn't not do this. I have to give credit to my boyfriend Gozer, who is from Kansas City, for the flavor text. Let me just sneak on past you.
It's so perfect. It's so perfect.
I was dying. And also I want to eat this hot dish.
Looking at that art, I want to as well. That's
pretty good one.
Yeah.
So
unreasonably tasty.
Me falling in love with hot dish and also biscuits and gravy because my boyfriend's from Missouri. So he's got the perfect Southern meets all the Northern Midwestern foods. Right there. And he's made me both. And after the hot dish, I told him I want him to make me another one. And I found another recipe for him. And he just goes, yes, you love our beige foods.
Yeah, how many saturated fats and carbohydrates can we stack into this? In what kind of configurations? Let's do it.
Because I did not grow up with this. I
Mhm.
just didn't. The only casserole my family ever made was a green bean casserole with French's onions on top, and
Which
it
is
was
also lovely in its own
strictly.
right,
It's
but-
delicious, but it was only a side dish and like
Mhm.
only at Thanksgiving. This wasn't a thing that we ate on a
Mhm.
regular. It was like a treat. My mom has always been like a very healthy person, and she's Puerto Rican, so the amount of olive oil
Sure.
used in Puerto Rican and Italian food, because her grandfather was from Italy, so we have a spattering of Italian in there. Like garlic for fucking days, spices for
Yeah.
goddamn days, seasoning. My favorite seasoning is adobo, for fuck's sake. Like,
I don't know that I've ever had that, but I believe you. I'm sure it's.
oh my god, you white boy.
No, this is the food. This is the food of my people. Is tater tots and mashed potatoes. That's what I'm up to.
It's so
is
good.
Is that two different types of potatoes? You're fucking
Yes.
right. It is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
it is.
the fuck it
It's
is.
great. Everything is like a little soft with a little bit of crisp. It's just it's perfect. It's beautiful. I love it.
So I had to pay tribute to this Midwestern staple on one of my favorite cards, because come on, this is so funny.
It's amazing. I love it.
It's just so funny. If anybody wants to print this, I have a link for it on it's MTG Cardsmith, and you could download it.
That needs to happen. I need to make this happen in my life.
So
right now. All right.
Maybe we should post it in the comments.
We can absolutely post a link in the
description.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That is no problem at all.
If you guys want me to make more regional altars of Magic cards, let me know, and I'll make fun of the whole country.
Oh, this could be a whole thing. I love this. I love this so much. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. But for real this time, let's go ahead and peace on out of here.
We're really leaving.
We're for real. All right.